Hello, welcome to Noise Management and its Control. Today is the last day of this week, which is the first week of this course, and we will continue our discussions on some of the important terms and terminologies associated with acoustics. We have discussed what is the meaning of decibel, decibel scales, sound pressure level, sound intensity level, sound power level and so on and so forth. So, today we will look at some other important terms which are used very often in context of acoustics and noise. So, we have already discussed what is decibel. What we will learn today is a little bit about octaves, decades, bandwidth, wave number, tone, pink noise and so on and so forth. So, let us look at tones and octaves. Okay. So, what do we mean by a tone? So, a sound signal, it could be complicated in shape. So, on the x axis I am plotting time and on the y axis I am plotting pressure as a function of time, or it could be a simple sine wave. Okay. For instance, if I have a straight wire in a guitar or a sitar and I pluck it, it will generate a nice single sine wave. Okay. It will vibrate at one particular frequency. So, in that case the sound pressure level will change like this. Okay. So, this is simple, it could be a sine wave or a cosine wave. So, if the sound signal is a simple sine or a cosine wave, we call that type of a signal as a tone. Sometimes it is also called as pure tone, but it means the same, tone. Okay. So, a pure tone or a tone is a sound signal which can be represented by a single sine or a cosine wave. Okay. So, I can generate a 300 hertz tone, 400 hertz tone, 20,000 hertz tone and so on and so forth. Next, we will look at a term called octave, and this is a very important term because it gets used very frequently in acoustics, music, noise, vibrations and so on and so forth. Okay. Octave. So, let us say I have a sound signal, okay. We will call that P1 is a function of time, and it is a sound signal which is made up of all sorts of frequencies. So, I can generate frequency F1, F2, F3, F4 and it has all sorts of frequencies, and I am just adding up all those frequencies together, but the condition is that the lowest frequency is equal to 0.5 times highest frequency. Okay. So, I can make up a signal. For instance, I can create a signal or some instrument is playing where the lowest frequency which it is producing is, let us say 100 hertz, and the highest frequency which it is producing is 200 hertz. Then we will say that this instrument is producing sound in an octave. So, octave is interval between two sound pitches. Pitch is same as frequency, separated by a factor of 2. Okay. So, example of octave, I can say 30 to 60 hertz is an octave. As long as the higher frequency and the lowest frequency they are off by a factor of 2, it is an octave. Another example could be 34 to 68 hertz, this is also an octave. Okay. There are standard octaves and non-standard octaves. This may not be a standard octave, but it is an octave because the ratio of higher frequency and the lowest frequency is 2. Another octave would be 1000 to 2000 hertz, 1000 to 2000 hertz, that is an octave. So, all these are octaves because the ratio of upper frequency and the lower frequencies off by a factor of 2. So, octaves are very frequently used in engineering terminology when we are discussing about sound. Now, why do we use this term octave? We will talk about it a little later, but as long as the ratio of higher frequency and lower frequency is 2, it is called an octave. This term octave has been used since very old times, since thousands of years, it is not a new thing. But in SI system, people said, oh, why do we have to use this factor of 2? Because in SI system international, things change when they are off by a factor of 10, right. For instance, in a meter, decimeter, centimeter, centimeter times 10 is a decimeter, decimeters times 10 is a meter, meters times 10 is a decameter, and so on and so forth, right. So then in SI system people came up with a term called decade. So this is also equally used, decade. In decade, the ratio of upper frequency and the ratio of lower frequency is 10. In octave, the ratio of upper frequency and ratio of lower frequency is 2. You would think in octave it should be 8, but it is strangely it is 2, but in decade it is 10. And so, example of a decade would be 30 to 600 hertz or 340 to 3400 hertz, 30 to 300 hertz, yeah, or 1000 to 10,000 hertz. So, these are all decades. Okay. So, now we will discuss a little bit further about octave. Okay. And what we will try to understand is why is this term OCT, because typically OCT means 8, octagon, octahedron, it means 8, but we will try to understand why is this used octave even though the ratio of frequencies is 2. So, this originally this term comes from music, it does not come from engineering, it comes from music. And we will look at our Indian music system and we will also look at Western music system, and then we will figure out what is how is it coming from music. So, in Indian music system we have 7 swaras, right. So, what is the basic thing? Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni. These are the 7 swars. Okay. And so, as you go from sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, your frequency keeps on going up, and then when you sing you say sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa, and then the next sa I will put it in a different color. So, this is sa number 1 and this is sa number 2, this is the lower sa, this is the higher sa. The ratio, when you say sa, each person produces his own sound. It may be some frequency, maybe it is 500 hertz, but then by the time he reaches the next sa higher divided by sa lower, the ratio of frequencies is 2 typically. If a person is doing a good job in singing, then the ratio of frequency of higher sa and lower sa is 2. Okay. And why is it called? So, this entire collection of frequencies is called an octave. And why is it called an octave? Because every 8th frequency, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the 8th frequency is twice of the first frequency. Okay. So, that is why it is called an octave. So, this terminology, this is it is the same thing. This terminology, it is in Indian music. In Indian music, every 8th note is twice of the first note. So, that is why it is coming as octave, and the same thing is true in Western music system also. Same thing is true in Western music system also. So, this is the fundamental reason why we use this term octave, because every note, 8th note is twice of the first note. Okay. And since we are talking about music, so I will not talk about this graph, but these terms sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa, because it will be interesting to know that they are actually short names for actual words. So, sa actually, the actual name of sa is Shadaj. The re, the actual name for that re swar is Rishab. Ga, the actual name for that is Gandhar. Ma, the actual name for that ma is Madhyam. Pa is Pancham, Dha is Dhaivat, and Ni is Nishad. So, Shadad, Rishab, Gandhar, Madhyam, Pancham, Dhaivat and Nishad. These 7 swaras or 7 tones in modern thing, because they are pure tones, they are known collectively as Sargam. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. Okay. They are collectively known as Sargam. And the term octave comes from music, because every 8th note is twice of the first note in terms of frequency. So, that is about octaves. The second thing I would like to say is that just as we figured out that if I try to plot pressure on the y axis on a linear scale, everything will not fit, because the range of frequency pressures is very large, 10 orders of magnitude. Similarly, our ears can sense frequencies as low as 20 hertz and as high as 20,000 hertz. That is the hearing range. If I have to plot all these frequencies on a single axis, let us say each 20 hertz is 1 centimeter, then that means that I need 1000 centimeters to represent 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So, again it is a very large range. So, that is why whenever we plot frequencies on the x axis, that also we plot on a log scale. So, on the x axis a lot of times we plot frequency, and that is on a log scale, and on the y axis we plot pressure, that is also on a log scale. So, lot of graphs which we generate for acoustics, they are on a log scale. This is important to understand. Once again, octave, in an octave f2 over f1 is 2, in a decade f2 over f1 is 10. Now, I can make any octave, 30 hertz to 60 hertz, 31.5 hertz to 63 hertz, and so on and so forth. But my octave will be different than your octave, will be different than his octave. But as engineers, we like to standardize things. So, there are some preferred octaves. So, what are those preferred octaves? These are the preferred frequencies. Okay. 1 hertz to 2 hertz to 4 hertz to 8 hertz. These are standard octaves, which a lot of times we use in engineering. So, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 31.5, 31.5 to 63, and then from 63 I do not go to 126. I make a small shift and I go from 63 to 125, because I want to end up at 1000. So, I 125 to 250, 250. So, these are standard octaves. So, in engineering, whenever we plot our results, we use these standard octaves to plot our results. So, we have talked about noise, tones, we have talked about octave. Another term is bandwidth. So, what is bandwidth? So, if there is a bunch of frequencies, the difference between highest and lowest is called bandwidth. Okay. So, each band has a higher frequency limit, a lower frequency limit and a central frequency, and the central frequency is f high, f upper times f lower, the square root of 2. Okay. And then another term we use is wave number. Lot of times it is designated as k, and that is nothing but 2 pi over lambda, where lambda is the wavelength. And then the last two terms which we will talk about is noise. So, we have already discussed tone. What is tone? It is a purely sinusoidal wave, but a lot of times we hear that, oh, this is noise, and noise has a precise engineering definition. It is not like a regular term. So, what is noise? Noise is a sound signal which has all sorts of frequencies present in it. Okay. Now, in which proportion they are present, it can vary. So, there are different types of noise. So, two commonly used noise signals are white noise, okay, and pink noise, two types of noise. There are other types of noise also, but in our course we will talk about pink noise and white noise. In both of these noise, white noise and pink noise, all frequencies are present, but the proportion in which different frequencies are mixed is different. So, what is so special about white noise? In white noise, you have equal power within a fixed bandwidth, equal power within a fixed bandwidth, and in pink noise, you have equal power in each octave. What does that mean? So, I will explain that. So, let us say we are going from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So, whether it is white noise or pink noise, all frequencies between 20 and 20,000 hertz will be present in white noise as well as pink noise. But in white noise, the energy between 20 hertz to let us say 120 hertz will be same as energy between 120 hertz to 220 hertz. Equal bandwidths 20 to 120 to 220 to 320. So, in every steps of 100 hertz, the energy is same, equal. In pink noise, it is different. It is 20 to 40, whatever is the energy is same as 40 to 80, and that is same as 80 to 160, and that is same as 160 to 320. So, do you understand this? Okay. So, that is the main difference. In white noise, the bandwidth is equal, and in each bandwidth it is same amount of energy. In pink noise, you have same energy in octave, you have same energy in octave, and that can be also mathematically computed, and all that detail is here. And what I will do to close today's lecture is actually play sample of white noise and pink noise, so that you get a feel of how does white noise sound like and how does pink noise sound like. So, this is white noise. I will play it once again. And this is pink noise. Okay. So, lot of times people find that pink noise is not as irritating as white noise. This is sharper. This has lower frequency, it has lower frequency, more. The proportion of lower frequencies is more. This is sharper, it is more scratchy. Okay. So, with this I like to conclude our discussions for this week, and we will meet once again next week. Till then, have a great time. Bye.